Long before the movie stars, the tech giants, and the golden beaches packed with tourists, California was something else entirely. It wasn't always this way. Welcome to StateLineRig. Get ready for another incredible journey. It was Spanish, then Mexican. For a brief, wild moment, it was even its own independent republic. Only after all of that did it finally become American. This is the land of the gold rush, the land of Yosemite, the land people fought for, died for, and rebuilt from ashes more than once. So how did this extraordinary place come to be? Let's go back to the very beginning and find out. Before we dive in, if you enjoy stories like this one, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. It helps us keep telling stories just like this. Now, let's go back, way back. Historians don't have an exact date, but it's believed that Native American tribes first began living on the land we now call California around 10,000 BC. These early settlers are thought to have come from Asia, likely crossing over the Bering Straits. Over time, they grew into more than 100 separate tribes, with a combined population somewhere between 100,000 and 300,000 people. Each tribe carried its own culture, language, and way of life. And for thousands of years, they lived here undisturbed, until European ships appeared on the horizon. The first European to ever set eyes on California's coastline was Juan Rodríguez Cabrillo, back in 1542. His expedition launched from what is now Mexico, then called the Viceroyalty of New Spain, and it landed in San Diego Bay. But Cabrillo found nothing he thought was worth the effort of colonizing, so he simply left, and California remained untouched. Occasionally, ships passed by, but nobody seriously considered settling there. Even when English explorer Francis Drake sailed through, claiming land for England, no settlement was built. Then, in 1602, Spanish sailor Sebastián Vizcaíno tried his luck, exploring San Diego Bay and Monterey Bay too. Still, nothing. No colony. Just more exploring, and more leaving. So when did Spain finally decide California was worth staying for? It wasn't until decades later that Spain finally set up permanent camp in what they called Alta California, a province of New Spain alongside Baja California. Franciscan missionaries built the first lasting settlements. In 1769, the first mission was established, alongside California's first military fort in today's San Diego. Over the following years, more than a dozen missions rose up across Alta California as Franciscans worked to convert the local indigenous population to Christianity. But the effort was poorly funded, and Spain's North American territories were already stretched too thin. The relationship between missionaries and native people was complicated, to put it kindly. While the missionaries claimed to share their culture and beliefs, they also forced native people into labor and confined them onto land that had once been entirely their own. This led to resistance, with several revolts breaking out, making the land feel even less inviting to new settlers. Yet the Spanish pushed forward. The next year brought an accidental discovery. Explorers, failing to recognize Vizcaíno's old description of Monterey Bay, sailed straight past it and stumbled upon San Francisco instead. More expeditions revealed even more of Northern California. But life stayed incredibly hard. Food shortages, disease, and conflict with native tribes pushed the colony to the edge of collapse more than once. Still, the settlers held on, and missions, forts, and small towns slowly filled the map, many of which we now know as major cities. Santa Barbara, Los Angeles, Monterey, Santa Cruz. It seemed Spain had finally secured a lasting foothold in California. And then, everything changed again. In 1821, Mexico won its independence from Spain, and Alta California became Mexican territory. The old mission culture slowly gave way to a ranching culture. Trade increased under new Mexican policies, and immigrants, both from neighboring American territories and from Europe, began arriving to fill the population gaps left as the indigenous population declined. But this shift came at a cost. Without their native converts, the missions could no longer function, and by the 1830s, the Mexican government secularized what remained of them. Meanwhile, American migrants kept arriving and eventually outnumbered the original settlers entirely. So what happens when a growing population feels unrepresented by its own government? They rebel. In the summer of 1846, American settlers rose up against the unstable Mexican government in what became known as the Bear Flag Revolt. They raised their now famous flag and declared the California Republic, demanding full independence. The revolt began on June 14th and found quick success. But by mid-July, they learned shocking news. The United States had already declared war on Mexico 2 months earlier, and American forces had already captured Monterrey, claiming it as U.S. territory. So the rebels faced a choice: fight another nation to protect their brand new republic, or accept American rule without resistance. Since their original goal had always been to join the United States anyway, the decision came easily. On February 2, 1848, the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo officially ended the Mexican-American War, and California became a possession of the United States. Just 2 years later, it would become the 31st state in the Union. But before that could even happen, something extraordinary happened first: gold. The famous California gold rush began at Sutter's Mill along the American River in Coloma, when James W. Marshall discovered gold on January 24, 1848. Word spread fast. Migrants poured in from nearby regions and beyond, especially Mexico, China, and Chile. And once President James Polk publicly confirmed the discovery, the age of the 49ers truly began. Can you imagine that feeling? Thousands upon thousands of prospectors from the United States, Australia, Europe, and Asia, all rushing toward one state, chasing the dream of striking it rich. Throughout 1849, California's population tripled. Mines and businesses sprang up overnight across Northern California. Between 1850 and 1859 alone, an estimated 28 million ounces of gold were pulled from the earth. By the time the rush slowed, roughly 300,000 new residents called California home. Remarkably, the state avoided the worst of the chaos as the Civil War tore through the rest of the country. With the gold rush behind it, California's agriculture, railroads, and economy began to flourish. The land the Spanish once dismissed as unworthy was becoming a rising star of the nation. But not everyone shared in this prosperity. Native Californians, those who had survived generations of disease, abuse, and displacement, were now forced onto reservations, their populations continuing to shrink. And yet, life pressed on. The 20th century brought even more change. On April 18, 1906, tragedy struck San Francisco when a massive earthquake devastated the city. 28,000 buildings were destroyed. 250,000 people lost their homes. An estimated 3,000 lives were lost. San Francisco would eventually recover, but the disaster remains a haunting reminder of the power hidden beneath California's soil. Then came the Great Depression. For families fleeing the devastated Dust Bowl states, California represented hope and opportunity. Even after World War II, countless returning soldiers chose to settle here, fueling its growth further. By the mid-1960s, California had officially become the most populated state in the nation, a title it still holds today. Along the way, the state also saw powerful earthquakes, historic social justice movements that inspired the whole country, and in 1969, the notable Native American occupation of Alcatraz Island, a powerful act of protest and reclamation. So, what is California really? Today, California stands as one of the most important states in America, shaped by a rich and layered history. We often remember it simply as the land of the gold rush, or the glamorous home of Hollywood. But its true story runs deeper. California was home to indigenous nations long before any settlers arrived. It was a Spanish colony, a Mexican province, a short-lived independent republic, and finally, a proud American state. Each chapter equally important, each one part of what made California the extraordinary place it is today. So tell us, which part of California's history surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments below. And if you are planning your next adventure, check the links in the description for must-have travel gear and the best booking deals to make your journey smoother. And if you enjoyed learning this story with us, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next documentary. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.